Again, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Summer Smith. I'm a reporter and anchor with Bay News 9. I mostly work out of Manatee County. And as I look around this group of amazing women, I'm so proud to be a part of all of you and work with all of you. And it makes me feel better when I think I have my crazy days that other women are going through the same thing with trying to balance it all. So it's a good thing we're all here. We're going to learn something. Well, we want to, again, thank you for joining us. We'd like to welcome some of our local dignitaries. Palmetto Mayor Shirley Groover Bryant right here. And I love her. She's done amazing things with the city of Palmetto. And Commissioner Carol Whitmore is supposed to be here. Is she here yet? Maybe? Busy? Anyone? Okay. And if there's anyone that I'm missing, please stand up. Put the pressure on you. Okay. And everyone else is very important as well. So thank you for being here. Well, as women, we're all again, very good at taking care of others, aren't we? Any of you mothers have young children, older children, just with older parents? We just try to juggle it all, and we do a very good job at doing it, I've learned. I feel like I am Superwoman some days, and I know all of you are as well. But as we take care of our loved ones, friends, family, we forget about some people. Who do we forget about? Ourselves sometimes. So our health is very important because what would our family and friends do without us? So I want to commend each of you for setting aside some time today for coming and for taking a step towards better health. That's very important. And we'd like to get the event started, and I'm going to introduce someone very important here, Valerie Powell-Stafford, the COO at Blake Medical Center. She came to our community a year ago and has dedicated herself to the patients of Blake Medical Center and to the local community. In addition to her position at Blake, Valerie was recently elected to serve on the Board of Governors of the American College of Healthcare Executives. She's also a daughter, a wife, and mother of 2 beautiful girls. So please welcome Valerie.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I'd also like to extend a special thank you to our care team and to recognize them for their support of our patients, whom we are so privileged to serve. At this time, I'd like to recognize our physicians. So as I call out your name, will you please stand? We have Dr. Beard, I think is in the audience with us. Here she is, right over there. Thank you. We have Dr. Butler. She? There we are. Okay. We have Dr. Jyothi. Very good. Thank you. We have Dr. Liebert. Great. We have Dr. Moet. Great. We have Dr. Nirasimhan. And did I recognize all of our physicians? Did I leave out anyone? Okay, great. Thank you so much. I also wanted to take this time to introduce our patient care navigators. We are so proud to have them on our team. They take such great care of our patients with compassion. We really appreciate it. At this time, I'd like to recognize Jody Miranda. She is our new Women's Health Patient Care Navigator. Where is she? She'll stand? Oh, she's in the back. Okay, there you go. Okay, great. We also have Patty Matson, who is our breast health patient care navigator. There she is. And we have Kelsey Corey, who is our lung and colon health patient care navigator. So let's give all of our care team members a round of applause. Very good. Joyce Myers once said, "I believe the greatest gift that you can give your family and the world is a healthy you." As women, we let too many things get in the way of taking care of ourselves, be it time, be it putting others in front of us, be it just a fear of the unknown. As women, we really need to make a healthy lifestyle a priority for us. The goal of our Women's Health and Wellness Program is to provide personalized care to you. We want you to be more proactive and better partners in your care. We have a new women's health navigator who is here to really be a really good support to you and to provide information that you can really trust and to guide you every step of the way. We also have a dedicated women's health line that is available 24 hours a day to answer any questions that you may have. Blake Medical Center has many health and wellness programs available to you, and we want to empower you to get well, stay well, and live well. We have invested in you, and now it is time for you to invest in yourself. I'd like to close with a quote from Mae West. You only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough. Thank you, and enjoy our program.
I was thinking we were taking a moment for lunch, so I apologize. Thank you for being so patient. Well, now we'd like to introduce someone else very special. We're honored today to have Dr. Melissa Wood with us. Not only is Dr. Wood a respected cardiologist and co-director of the Corgan Women's Heart Health Program at Massachusetts General Hospital Heart Center, she is also the Assistant Director of Medicine at Harvard Medical School and the author of Smart at Heart, a holistic 10-step approach to preventing and healing heart disease for women. Dr. Wood is here today to explore key areas of our lives where we can make an impact to fight heart disease. So please join me now in welcoming Dr. Wood.
So hello, everyone. I am so excited to be here in beautiful Florida. I couldn't wait to hop on that plane at Logan Airport yesterday. And yes, the snow has finally melted. That's one good thing. So in the next 35-40 minutes, I want to tell you all a little about what you can do to improve your own health. But not only your health, the health of your friends, your sisters, your mothers, your aunts, and your children. I think that as women, as we've heard earlier, we're all so busy and we get caught up in the day-to-day that we forget to take care of ourselves. And I want to share with you some of the wisdom that I have learned over the past 24 years since I've been fortunate enough to be in the field of cardiology. And I think that many of the things, many of the tips that I've learned weren't really from reading books, but from what my patients would tell me and what I would observe with my patients. So I really want you to know that what I'm telling you is coming from my heart and from my experience. I'm going to show you some slides. I'll try not to overwhelm you with slides. Does this actually... Okay, I am. There we go. This kind of tells the whole story. And can you ladies see this slide? Are you able to see it? No, I'm sorry. But this is an idea that we came up with about 5 years ago when we were starting to think about how we get our patients to improve their health and how we can empower people to make changes that are sometimes difficult. And while I'm a cardiologist, I have to say that many of the changes that I ask my patients to make benefit not only your heart health, but your breast health and your bone health and your mental health. So when we think about what is it that's involved in our health, we have to start in the center of the circle, the inner self. That's sort of who we are genetically. What genes did we inherit from our parents? Psychosocial, are we depressed? Are we anxious? Are we a happy person? And the factors that we have to take care of every day with ourselves. But as all of you know, that inner self is completely affected by the next circle, which is relationships. And those are our friends, our family, our coworkers, organizations that we belong to. Those things permeate our daily life and affect the choices we make. Then the next circle, the light blue circle, is our environment, our physical environment. You are so fortunate to live in a place where you can exercise outside every day of the year. Not everyone is that fortunate. Also, things like your workplace. I know that we've talked a little bit this morning about the importance of having wellness and health in the workplace. And that's something that I have worked to help many different hospital organizations develop for their employees. Because we know if employees are healthier, they're going to stay in their position and they're going to have higher productivity. And it's easier for companies that provide wellness and health benefits within the organization to attract very valuable employees. Finally, there's the food environment, so accessibility to healthy, fresh fruits and vegetables. Believe it or not, there are cities in the United States that have food deserts, places where it's really hard to get fresh fruits and vegetables, and if they're available, they're expensive. And yet, guess what? Macaroni and cheese is still 25 cents a box. So I think we have to work to change that. And then finally, there's the overarching societal factors. So media, health policy, government funding of different agricultural industries. So this whole big thing affects our health. And I was fortunate enough to work with Dr. Walter Willett at the Harvard School of Public Health to actually write a book, which we published last year, called Thinfluence. And it really talks about all of these things that I discussed in that slide. I start out with that just because I want to give you the groundwork for how the information I give you over the next 35 minutes can be incorporated into your own personal life. So yes, I am a cardiologist, and so I want to show you a couple figures. We're nerds, us cardiologists. I promise I'll try to keep that to a minimum. What I'm actually showing you is the death rate from cardiovascular disease in Americans. So the blue line is men. The good news is, over the past 2 decades, we've seen a substantial decline in the percentage of people, men, dying from heart disease. This has to do with things like stents, statins, and better heart surgery techniques. Pink is the women's line. So again, I'm sorry, but this is a really important figure. Women have not enjoyed the same benefit and reduction of heart disease as have our male friends, husbands, brothers. And that's partially because we didn't understand that women develop heart disease, and also we have different symptoms that we'll talk about. But also, women's hearts are different than men's hearts, and what may work to treat heart disease in a man may not work in a woman. We are still seeing improvements in women, but we are lagging behind. That is why I am here today. This is just showing us the prevalence of heart disease in women and men in different age groups. So in younger men and women, men are more likely to have heart disease, but after the age of 40, it's equally prevalent in men and women. And that slide really shows the same thing. So what we're going to talk about is how we can all empower ourselves to make better choices. And what I'm going to do is use a lot of the material that's available on the American Heart Association's website. Now, this is for the lay public. There are pieces that are for physicians and nurses as well. So AmericanHeart.org, and this is really important info. So this type of info gives you and guarantees you perhaps a longer life. It helps prevent heart disease. It helps you feel better and to feel healthier and to provide you better quality of life. So this tool is called the My Life Check. And what I recommend is checking out this website. And if you have the information that it asks for, you can plug in your own data. If you don't, then print this out and take it with you to your next doctor's appointment. And when you have your blood pressure checked and you get a blood sample taken, you can then fill in your own data. What this really looks at is what we call Life Simple 7. The American Heart Association realized if we're going to make heart health a priority, then we need to make it easy. Physicians are busy in their offices, patients are busy and have many competing important things in their lives. So we have to make heart health simple. So we broke it into 7 categories. 3 blood factors, so blood pressure, blood cholesterol, blood sugar, and 4 behaviors. Smoking status, maintaining a healthy weight, your physical activity, and eating a healthy diet like we're eating today. So I'm going to start with blood pressure. How many people in this room have had their blood pressure taken in the past 2 months? Wow, I'm really impressed. That's great. So I always talk about blood pressure because blood pressure is so important. It is one of the most strong predictors of cardiovascular disease. And 1 in 3 Americans have high blood pressure, and many are unaware. In fact, 70% of women after menopause develop high blood pressure and don't even know it. So it's important to take action. Know your numbers. If your blood pressure is normal, you don't have to check it every week or every month. Several times a year is fine. But if you have high blood pressure, it's very important to track your numbers. And one of the keys in managing high blood pressure, and probably the first step your doctor will talk to you about in changing your behavior, is learning to eat well. And we'll talk about that in our nutrition slides, but also in staying active. So watching your salt, increasing your activity, are early, and maintaining a healthy weight are some of the first behaviors that are so important. Now, we used to be very tight about wanting super strong control of blood pressure and wanting numbers that were low. We've actually relaxed those with our new J&C recommendations. And what we really are shooting for in someone over the age of 60 is just a blood pressure of under 150/90. We realize that in people over the age of 60, if you shoot for 120 or 130 using medication, the side effects of the medications are often quite unpleasant for the patient. As we get older, even if we're very healthy, our blood vessels get a little bit calcified and a little bit stiff. And so the medications that lower blood pressure can make us feel dizzy and have other side effects that are really unpleasant. So we're shooting for under 150/90. In younger individuals, 140/90, and in individuals with kidney disease or diabetes, we actually are still pretty aggressive and wanting numbers more in the 130 to over 80 range. It's also important when we're thinking about a number, we think about our cholesterol. And I know there's been a lot of information in the press about cholesterol and about medicines used to lower cholesterol. So I'll tell you a few things that I think are important for you to know. We know that cholesterol is in our blood and that good cholesterol helps clean our blood vessels, and that's the HDL. But LDL, which is one of the what we call the bad cholesterol, is actually putting us at risk for heart disease and stroke if it's excessively high. So again, take action. It's important that you know your blood cholesterol numbers and that you follow your healthcare provider's advice. And again, this is going to be a recurrent theme. Behavior can help you manage your cholesterol. This is a spreadsheet for the physicians and nurses who are out there, and also for patients, just to understand tools that exist for your healthcare providers. If you go to cholesterol guidelines, ACC/AHA, I have this bookmarked on my desktop. This fancy little Excel spreadsheet pops up, but it's really not very complicated. It just asks your physician to put in a few bits of information, your age, your race, your gender, and numbers like your cholesterol, your HDL, and whether or not you're being treated for blood pressure, diabetes, and it calculates your 10-year risk of developing heart disease and compares you to other women at your age range, and it gives you that risk and then gives you your lifetime risk of heart disease. So that is actually a really important thing to be calculated because it helps your care provider decide whether or not your risk is high enough to suggest a statin for you. And statins clearly are one of the most powerful medications at our fingertips, and they do reduce risk of heart attack and stroke. Very clearly, every study has shown it. There's a lot of lay press that does talk about risk of diabetes with statins, and so many of my patients are afraid to take them. I think that is an individual choice by a physician or nurse and a patient that takes into account all of your risk factors, and you must discuss it to decide whether or not you are a candidate for a statin. But there are a lot of ways you can take statins and not have side effects. Women are lucky. We actually respond to much lower doses of statins very effectively. And women also usually have much higher good cholesterol or HDL levels. So a lot of times physicians don't feel that it's such an imperative to get someone on a statin if they don't have risk factors for heart disease. Blood sugar is also a big issue for us, and really why we know that elevated blood sugar is a marker of sort of a diffuse problem in our metabolic system, our heart, our blood vessels, our kidneys, but it does increase our risk of heart disease and stroke. Again, those good choices really can help us manage our blood sugar. It's interesting if you think about it, about 2 decades ago, diabetes was relatively rare. Now, 1 out of 5 children born after the year 2000 will develop diabetes in their lifetime, and 1 out of 3 Latino or Latina children born after 2000 will develop diabetes if we don't change behavior. So we really need to take this to heart. Weight is also an important risk factor for cardiovascular disease and other health problems. we know that a BMI of 25 is optimal. So your doctor can help you calculate your BMI, or you can even calculate your own at home by just Googling BMI calculator. Body mass index is your weight corrected for your height, and high heels don't count. So, you plug in your weight, and you can either use traditional English measurements, or you can use metric, but it has to be the same for both. And it will give you that body mass index. Now, we do know that while a body mass index of over 30, which is considered obesity, is a substantial risk factor for heart disease, between 25 and 30 isn't as much of a risk factor, but we still do need to take the right action, such as knowing our BMI, following it, and eating the right amount of food to help us maintain an ideal body weight, and to take in the types of foods that will help us decrease our cardiovascular risk. I'm going to show you 3 maps of the United States, and this is a really important message. So the first one, I believe, was 1990. Let me see, Michael. Yeah, 1990, and this is a map of the U.S. with the prevalence of obesity in each state. So in 1990, most states had less than 15% of the population of that state with obesity. And again, that's a body mass index of over 30. Some states, it was less than 10%. Fast forward to 1999, many of the states had up to 25%, and over half the United States. And then if we fast forward to 2008, some of the states had over 30% of the population that was actually overweight or obese. And so a big change over time. That's obesity, not overweight. What happened between 1990 and 2008? What do you guys think? Computers and the internet. So suddenly people didn't have to get off of their duff. They could sit on their computer and talk to their friends via Skype or email, search information, shop, do all the things we do online. All of this was now at your fingertips, which means you don't have to get up and move around. So I think we have to counteract this by moving more and doing other things. This just shows you that over that BMI of 30, our heart disease risk really goes up. Another risk factor for heart disease that I have been believing in since I started my career, but is only now scientifically really recognized, is the effect of stress. So those internal factors on our health. We know now there's clear scientific evidence that depression and anxiety clearly have links to heart disease. I know most of you have heard of the broken heart syndrome, or that stress cardiomyopathy that occurs in the setting of something that very acutely happens and causes the heart to almost behave as if there was a heart attack. We're seeing that more and more often because there's more stress in our lives. And we carry within each of us the power to manage our stress and to decrease our stress. But I think we have to recognize that it's there. It's so important to recognize when we are at increased stress and to seek help for that. Part of the problem with stress is that it leads us to make bad health choices. So we're more likely to be sedentary, to eat comfort foods, and to smoke or drink if we do those behaviors. And we have really disordered sleep. Sleep is so important to our overall health, and stress and sleep problems go hand in hand. So think about the things in your life that give you stress and try to manage them a little better. Now I'm going to talk about sort of the thing I am so proud of, which is my Happy Heart study. That stands for Heart Awareness and Primary Prevention in Your Neighborhood. And what I really wanted to do was take that big circle that I showed you at the beginning, which was all of the aspects of our life and our health, and develop a program that was multidisciplinary, cost-effective, scalable, and bring it to a low-income neighborhood for women between 40 and 60 in the Boston area. And that was the Happy Heart study. So we wanted to do this study because we knew that heart disease risk factors were very prevalent in this community, and these women had very little access to wellness. They were often frequently socially isolated because they were dealing with raising their kids, their grandkids, a difficult or abusive spouse. They often were going through either bankruptcy or foreclosure because of all of the economic downturns after 2008. And we wanted to give these people a healthier life. So we created a team. Things work much better when you have a team involved. We measured many of their heart disease risk factors and figured out what was sort of their major issues that needed help. And then we started out with an individualized approach and created then a group education after we got the individual information. So for each person's exercise plan, they saw a physical therapist once. That physical therapist determined whether or not they had arthritis, whether they could start a vigorous exercise program safely, and they created kind of a prescription for exercise. Then we linked every patient with their own navigator or health coach, and that health coach was aware of that plan and would do regular check-ins either by phone or online with that patient. For nutrition, we had everyone see the nutritionist once, and she would take in information about who lived in the household, what were the cultural preferences, what was the budget, and she would work with that patient to develop that nutrition plan. And then twice monthly, we would have group education classes where we would shop in the local grocery store and learn to shop in the perimeter. We would educate women about sodium, fat in their diet, and give them shopping lists and healthier recipes. And the women would cook together. And what we found at the beginning was that the fellowship that they obtained from knowing other people in their same situation was probably the single most reason behind the success of our program, and that was giving women a social network when they really did not have one before. We looked at stress and anxiety risk factors. We taught women the relaxation response and heart math, which is a program that teaches sort of an instantaneous ability to really harness your own internal relaxation and improve your health. And it really draws on that connection between the brain and the heart. And we also offered smoking cessation. So this multifaceted approach to improving women's overall health. And that really focused on stress management, which is so important. We also taught them yoga, chair yoga, and had Tai Chi classes available for the women in the study, and taught them, again, the heart math technique and the relaxation response. That was a really important aspect of what we did because the women at the end of 2 years lost weight, their blood sugars improved, their cholesterols improved, and their stress and anxiety scores were cut in half. So we really feel that that type of approach is successful and it doesn't cost much. And I actually have the whole recipe book of how we develop the program, and I'm always happy to share it with healthcare systems at no price because we just basically will give it away if other programs would like to use it. We know that family and friends are so important, and I'll tell you the story of Grace. Grace was actually a woman in our study. She moved to the United States from Honduras, and when she moved to the United States years before, she was thin, unmarried, but then she got married to an American, had children, gained weight, and suddenly found herself with high blood pressure. She was obese, and she had pre-diabetes. So she and her husband started coming to the education classes after she enrolled into the Happy Heart study. And we did the regular education, the exercise, the stress management, and he would show up with her at every education class because we offered them to the families as well. At year 2, her body mass index had dropped from 32 to 27. Her blood pressure was normal. Her cholesterol was normal. And I didn't even recognize her husband when he came up to me at our holiday event. And he said, he showed me his original picture from when she started Happy Heart. He had lost 60 pounds. And he had competed in his first 10K. But what was most cool was that Grace and Scott, who was her husband, they benefited, but then their daughters benefited and their daughters' friends benefited. And Glenn, who was the cubicle mate at work of Scott, benefited. Glenn weighed over 400 pounds. He started walking with Scott at lunchtime. So when I realized this, that's when we talked about the concept of influence and that how much positive health helps people. We also know from work done by my colleague at the Framingham Heart Study that obesity does run through social networks. So if you are overweight, your friends, siblings, and spouse are much more likely to be overweight as well. And I think we can explain that because we tend to spend time with people who are like us. And the good news is, if you make a positive health choice and you are an example, the people who love you and care about you can actually follow your example and become part of a healthier life. So you can really leverage those relationships that are so important in your life to improve not only your health, but those around you. It's hard sometimes because not all of us are in healthy relationships, and not all of us spend a lot of time with people who have behaviors that we want to partake in every day. So it's important to look within your own social network and find people that you think would be supportive of health change. Maybe somebody at work, maybe someone in your church, maybe a mother of a child that your child goes to school with, or a friend. Find those people and engage them and bring them into your social network to help improve your overall health. And when we talk about activity, physical activity, we know that people who exercise have better health than those who don't. I'm not going to go into the whole world of, we've heard exercise is bad for you. I spent 10 years doing research on the Boston Marathon. I've done, we've been at 5 marathons doing projects. True, if you exercise, 180 minutes a day, every day of the week, you may have some risks for like atrial fibrillation and other things, but I'm talking about moderate activity. It's very good for our bones. It's very good for our hearts. And some of the tips that we have suggested are really find that workout buddy. If you have someone to work out with you, you have to be accountable. So you can't just not show up if someone's waiting for you. Some of the benefits of exercise include not only better self-esteem, but obviously weight management, blood pressure, blood cholesterol, reduced blood sugar, and improved sleep, which, as we talked about, is extremely important. Regular exercise also appears to perhaps reduce the effects of aging on our bodies. And I think clearly we know that strength exercise helps strengthen our bones as well. So very, very important. I learned a long time ago from a woman when I was involved teaching about heart disease in San Antonio, Texas, that if you do something 18 times in a row, you're more likely to develop that, and it puts an imprint on your brain. Doesn't mean 18 days in a row, but whatever the pattern is, say you exercise 3 days a week, do that for 18 weeks. And at the end of 18 weeks, if you don't exercise, that red light is going to go off and say, wait, you're not exercising. So it works. I don't know why, but it does, so try it. Some other tips: you don't have to go someplace and invest a lot of money in a gym membership. If you have cable television, there are so many different types of 20 and 30-minute exercise programs that are available that you can do in the comfort of your own home. Things like resistance bands and weights are very helpful. Certainly if you're going to be walking or jogging or stationary biking, put together a playlist or go to one of the many different music service sites and get a workout list that's kind of motivating and fun. I find it sure helps you get through those last few miles of that walk or run. If you're listening to something fun, it even distracts you and you forget that you're not loving that run that day. Very important. So smoking, I think we're fortunate because smoking is beginning to take a downturn in the United States. We know it is the #1 modifiable cause of all death. So clearly, if you don't smoke, don't start. If you do, find ways to quit. It's important. It's important you think about this every day and focus on the rewards. I like to appeal to vanity. It works with women. And I say, you will look 10 years younger if you quit smoking. And, and then we offer women the programs that have been effective, proven to be effective, and work. So usually a smoking cessation program with pharmacologic help if necessary, either the patch or medications. Very, very helpful. Finally, we talked at the beginning in one of those circles about the workplace. How many of you here work someplace that offers wellness benefits? Okay, so I need more hands up next year when I come back. I can say that I am so lucky to work where I work. About 4 years ago, one of the nutritionists at our hospital decided to take it upon herself to code all of the foods in the cafeteria, red, yellow, or green. So, and red tells you calories and fat percentage, tells you sodium percentage. Yellow does too, and so does green. For me, it's super easy. You just look for the color and then you take it and you check out. Or on a bad day, red, but usually green. It also, there's that environment. It's called the Be Fit program, and we actually received an award from the American Heart for being one of the fit-friendly companies in Boston. And we offer discounts to healthcare, a health gym across the street. We have wellness programs. We have pregnancy and wellness programs. We have aging and wellness. We have programs for caring for your aging relatives. A lot of programs to help manage stress. We have walking groups, Fitbit challenges, and a matching program to give you a buddy to have a challenge if you feel like you need to lose some weight and you want to have someone to go down that journey with you. So really, really important. And to think about what you can do, go to your HR team and say, listen, can we make an investment in our health? As I said earlier in my presentation, employees who are healthy stay working for the same company and are miss fewer days and are more productive. So it's a win-win. The food environment, we talked about that it does exist, that it's important, and we have to remember that 70% of Americans now are overweight or obese. That's if your BMI is over 26. And how we eat and what we eat is so important. And I do recommend that you go home, look in your pantry, and consider a food makeover. It's really important. Toss out things that you bought inside the middle of the grocery store and focus on those things on the outside. It's also really important to think about mindless eating. So, you know, if your favorite show comes on Thursday night, and you've already had your dinner, you've done your dishes, and then you're like, I'm a little hungry. Let's go see what's in the pantry. And you put it there, and all of a sudden you're either online or you're on the TV, and all of a sudden that bag of chips is gone. So mindless eating is not our friend. It's so important to eat better. And the American Heart Association has given us guidelines, the DASH diet, so lots of fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grain carbs if you eat the carbs, fat-free and low-fat dairy products, fish with omega-3 fatty acids, and say no to foods and beverages with added sugar and products that are high in sodium. This pie graph just shows us in 1977 the percentage of people that cooked most of their meals and ate most of their meals at home. In 2007, that had decreased, and I would wager that by 2015, probably the blue is a little tiny slice of that pie. This is hard to see, but the take home here, this is the AHA's DASH recommendation, is for all of us, whether we have high blood pressure or not, to decrease the salt in our diet to less than 1,500 milligrams. The alcohol thing, we love our red wine, it's good for us, but as women, 1 to 1.5 glasses per day, that's if you're looking at the whole week. So 7 per week is kind of the thing, but above that is considered moderate. So we're supposed to be, but grape juice has a lot of the good benefits as well. Fish twice a week, fresh fruits and vegetables as much as we can get in, and really minimizing processed sugars and processed carbohydrates. These are some options I came up when I wrote Smart at Heart. I worked with our nutritionist, Milani, and she helped me come up with these substitutions. So instead of sour cream, low-fat yogurt, one of the things for salad dressing that's really helpful is just that balsamic vinegar and olive oil. Salt is really present in most salad dressings. There's a lot of salt in salad dressings, and people forget that. Using stevia, which is a naturally occurring sweetener, instead of sugar. Also trying to bring your own snacks to work. I know it takes time. I recently read the book about the Whole30, which is a great recommendation for nutrition, which is simply fresh fruits and vegetables, lean meats and chicken, and minimal processed carbs. So prepare your own food. Buy some nifty little food containers at your Container Store and have fun preparing your foods in the morning and take them with you. Not only will you save a lot of money, but you will really improve your health. Also, as I mentioned, the environment is really important. TV trays are a bad thing because they make you sit in front of your TV and eat. So you should eat at your table with your family, talking about what happened during the day. There's a reason French people are not obese. They spend, on average, twice as long eating as do Americans. If you eat for a longer period of time, you eat less. If you eat very slowly and talk and enjoy your 1 glass of red wine while you're eating. So I think that's really important. It's also good to think about your other aspects of your environment, such as organization. Disorganization is a source of major stress for many people. So go through, clean things out, get some more fresh light, add more plants. These are all things that are really important. Media has a huge influence on us. I think this was really shocking when I was putting this talk together and I kind of saw this slide and I grabbed it off the internet. In 2012, $4.6 billion was spent advertising fast food. 116 million was spent advertising fruits and vegetables, and that was primarily California agriculture growers pushing their foxy lettuce and their different foods, avocados, etc. So not a lot of money spent on fresh fruits and vegetables. And if we look at the messaging, it's bright, it's colorful. there's always a thin person eating the McDonald's hamburger. You know, and I think it's important if you think about what our kids are exposed to on Saturday mornings and the prize in the cereal box. I mean, there's genius behind this, and it works. So we cannot be tricked. Also, policy. You know, it's amazing that certain agriculture industries have some of the best paid lobbyists in D.C., and that's behind the whole high fructose corn syrup story. So, I mean, I'm from Missouri, corn's grown in Missouri, and I do realize I have to have that disclaimer, but it is important to realize high fructose corn syrup has so many negative health effects, and yet it's present in yogurt, bread, pizza, cereal bars, canned fruit, applesauce, tomato sauce. Like when you make your own healthy pasta at home, look in the tomato sauce. It's really important. When you're buying foods, look and see if there's high fructose corn syrup in it. And message Washington, D.C. about improving funding for better health for our children in the schools and for those of us who buy groceries, make it more affordable. I will say that the FDA did change their packaging to make it much more understandable with regard to the messaging about the serving and the calories and the salt. It used to be per package and not per, it used to be per serving and not per package, and now it's per package. So if you eat that box of popcorn, you'll know how much salt and how many calories are in that box versus just one serving. So I really want to offer you this program, this type of, you know, holistic and that it affects the different aspects of your life program to improve your own health. And I want to applaud the American Heart's goal, which is to reduce cardiovascular deaths by 20% in the United States by the year 2020. And I think by following Life's Simple 7 and incorporating hopefully some of the tips that I've offered, you'll be able to do that. If you don't have a plan, it's going to be much harder to succeed. You have to have that, that goal in sight. And you don't have to do every single one of these steps now. You say, what is the thing in my life that needs the most help? It could be a relationship. It could be your waistband. It could be smoking. Pick something and decide to take that on as your challenge to improve your health. We know that by following these steps, not only will you have a reduced risk of heart disease, but you'll have better health, better quality of life, fewer other health problems. So now is really the time, and we can build a healthier future, you know, one step at a time and one heart at a time. So thank you very much. I'm happy to answer questions if anybody has any. Yes?
What is your opinion on low-fat food? Often when they take the fat out, they put in something that's a chemical.
Right. Sure. The question is low-fat food in general. So I think we have to be sophisticated about what we buy and what we put in our mouth. And it's very true that low-fat is a way of getting people's attention to buy something because they think it will be healthier, and you have to look at the ingredients. If it has, you know, sweeteners or it has fillers that are unhealthy, it's certainly, you have to look at the total contents and see. I think it's getting a little bit better because now there is this sort of full disclosure that the FDA mandated to really report what the content is in there. But that's why I really push for a more Whole30 based diet, which is minimizing processed foods. I think the less processed food has clearly far fewer of the ingredients that are harmful to us. So try to make it yourself. I mean, it's important to remember too that it's 80% of the time what we eat that matters. I mean, 20% of the time, if you have a party or you have an event or you're going out for dinner, you can give yourself a break. I think in so doing, you're more likely to maintain the 80% and keep that clear. But those low-fat foods are definitely a way of sucking in people that don't know to read the label. Yes?
Dr. Wood, I know you said that smoking has gone down, but it appears to me in the teenage world anyway, there's a lot of e-cigs. Has there been any studies on what some of the health?
So e-cigarettes are now the new problem for those of us as cardiologists because they're felt to. There's very little literature, first of all, very little evidence-based literature, but there is some feeling that some of them still do contain nicotine. It's just not smoked nicotine, and that the particulate matter may be very detrimental to the lungs, and that the nicotine itself can cause vascular abnormalities regardless of how it gets into your body long term in the doses that people need to replace a cigarette. So I am still very, very cautious in any way I would never endorse them, and I certainly tell people that it's the best thing to avoid them completely. And you're right. Well, women in our age group, I think, women in the 30 plus are less likely to smoke than our moms when we were growing up, and our sisters that are older than us. We are seeing in some groups, in some geographic locations, younger women are smoking again because they think it helps them control their weight. And that's why we're really trying to get the message out there that it is very harmful. Number one preventable cause of all death. So really important. Other questions? Yes. Sure. So I'm actually going to send some copies of my book to these guys so they have them. And if you want, grab one, or you can get it on Amazon. But I have a whole section in there on what's important, like, the vegetables that are important to eat, organic versus not. But the bottom line is, if it's something that has porous skin, like strawberries, grapes, apples that you're going to eat the skin, organic is definitely the way to go. Costco and Sam's Club are beginning to sell organic things. Broccoli. If it's something that you peel the skin off, for instance, oranges, cucumbers, things like that, then conventional is actually okay. Wash your vegetables well, but you really do have to be very careful about what you're taking into your body. And certainly, I think especially for the budget-minded person, it's hard to shop and fill your cart with organic fruits and vegetables. I mean, why do they call it whole paycheck, but instead of Whole Foods? but it's a great question. All right. Yeah.
I've heard a little bit about, very briefly and vaguely, about a potential blood test that might indicate a marker for heart disease. Is that something that's real? Or?
So the question was, is there a blood test that indicates a marker for heart disease? So there are a lot of blood tests that are out there now that are kind of second order of business. The first order of business is cholesterol and glucose. And if your whole, like the things we talked about, those 7, if you have ideal blood pressure, ideal body weight, ideal cholesterol, blood sugar, you're exercising, eating right, and not smoking, and feel well, there's no need to have an additional blood test. I almost always reach for those second order blood tests when someone has a heart attack that I can't understand why they had it, like they're healthy, non-smoker, and they had a heart attack at 50. Then I kind of go down into that toolbox, because for the most part, those additional tests are not going to change anything that I'm going to tell someone, because it's not like the PLAC test or a homocysteine test. In a healthy, otherwise asymptomatic person, it's going to make me treat something different. There's also that C-reactive protein that you may be referring to. I'm not sure which. C-reactive protein is an inflammatory marker that, in the presence of average to high cholesterol levels, those 2 factors push doctors to put people on a statin. But my approach is always health behavior first. And if health behavior doesn't get you where you need to be with regard to numbers, then consider medications or additional testing. But I think it's a very individualized discussion. And I will say, while you asked that question, I know people may wonder about CAT scans of the heart as well. And again, I predict someone's risk by looking at their numbers and factors, and I don't advocate looking for calcium scores in the heart arteries unless I need to get someone to change behavior and they're not doing it. If I have a smoker who really doesn't want to quit smoking and I get them a calcium CT scan and their score is really high, then I tell them your risk is higher than we predicted and you should definitely quit smoking. They still may not, but at least I have more information for them. So I think we don't need a lot of highly sophisticated, expensive tests. We just need to have good information that's individualized. Great. All right. Well, thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just wanted to find out about the detox products that are pushing a cure-all for everything.
Right. So if there was a cure for heart disease, I would probably definitely buy it, but I think that there's not. And there's you have to be really, just like we talked about low fat, really careful about the marketing that goes behind a product, because food supplements and, vitamins and any type of thing that isn't a medication that has been approved by the FDA, nutritional supplements do not go through stringent testing, so they can have side effects that aren't recognized, and they also can have detrimental effects on other medications that you're taking. And detox programs or cleanses, they may individually make someone feel better, and it may be part of someone's holistic nutrition program, but there's no evidence that it offers really any overall or long-standing benefit. And I think that, sometimes people feel better if they've done that, but the truth is, a juice cleanse, you're going to gain that weight back. You might lose a lot of water, but you'll gain it back if you don't change the way you eat and you exercise. So I really advocate for just sticking to the things that are tried and true. Also, same goes for a lot of this stuff. We were speaking earlier this morning about how 85% of American women take their health advice from a man who's never had a pap smear or a mammogram. And, I think that, and there's some question as to the health advice that's being doled out. So I think it's important to consider the source. So anyway, thank you.
Dr. Wood, we want you to move here so we can all go and see you. You did great. Before we wrap up, we'd like to give special recognition to the Health and Wellness Committee. Would you all please stand? Members of the Health and Wellness Committee. Yeah. They planned all this and organized it, and they did a great job. Thank you so much. It was very educational. And that is it. Dessert is being served right now, so if you'll please stay and enjoy that. And it's healthy. But thank you all so much for coming, and hopefully you all learned something and enjoy your day.